This video is brought to you by Squarespace. More info at the end of the video. So the Volvo has another little bit of an issue, and that issue is heat. Being that it is a Volvo that used to have a 4-cylinder in it, and it's now got an 8-cylinder with a turbo in the engine bay, the engine bay gets incredibly hot. You got the exhaust coming forward from both sides, joining into the turbo right behind the passenger side headlight, and then you have the downpipe, which then goes under the other exhaust out the back of the car. I built the car in Chicago during the winter when it was, 0 degrees outside. Never had any issues then, never overheat. Intake temps were amazing, but obviously I now live in Georgia and it is now the summer. I wanted to do a few tests to show this issue. So this morning I got into the car, drove it around town a little bit to make sure it was nice and warm. And I even took it to do some shopping at Harbor Freight, which let the engine bay get nice and heat soaked while it sat in the parking lot. And then I performed 3 tests. First test was just cruising on the highway at 60 miles per hour for 10 minutes. At the end of that test, the intake temps were 100 degrees Fahrenheit. During all 3 of these tests, the ambient air temperature was 82 degrees. After that, I went ahead and did a nice and long 1st to 3rd gear pull, recorded a data log of that, and I took the coldest intake temp during that pull. The car has meth injection, so the intake temps during a pull are actually lower than when it's just chilling around. The lowest temperature I got to was 83 degrees Fahrenheit. Right after doing that pull, I pulled the car into a parking lot and I let it sit and idle for 10 minutes. After sitting and idling for just 10 minutes, the intake temps got up to 131 degrees. Now, none of those temps were that bad, but just a little bit of hot air makes a big difference on how much power your car makes. In a recent Mighty Car Mods video, they were dynoing their LS3 swapped E30. They did a couple power pulls, the car made 407 horsepower, and then they just moved the air filter, allowing the engine to get colder air, but then they did another power pull, and the car made 440 horsepower. So they picked up almost 40 horsepower from just getting a little bit colder air. So that's what we're doing today. We're gonna get the Volvo a little bit colder air. I contacted my friends over at Mishimoto and I told them, give me everything you got. And they pulled through. We've got their entire line of heat management products. Everything from gold reflective tape, turbo blanket, their coolant, exhaust wrap, a whole bunch of reflective sleeves, more tape, more sheets, and something that's gonna be really cool is their new embossed aluminum heat shield. We're going to install as much of this as we possibly can on the Volvo. We have enough stuff here for like 3 cars. So it's not all gonna go on the Volvo, but a lot of it will. So there are a few spots in this engine bay that I think most of the heat are coming from. I mean, for one, we have all of this exhaust piping right here, the 2 crossovers, the wastegates, the turbo, and then we have our intake right here, which has no cold source of air. So we'll put the turbo blanket on, we'll wrap this stuff with the aluminum, and I'm gonna cut a hole in the wheel well so the turbo has a source of cold air. The second area of concern is right here. This is the driver's side exhaust, and that's passing right next to the air to water intercooler. Y'all told me about this. After driving for a while, the water gets hot, and the heat exchanger is not big enough to really exchange the heat. So we'll put sleeves on this, we'll put reflective tape on the intercooler, on the reservoir. We'll also wrap both the charge pipes with reflective tape. To help the power steering, we'll put some heat sleeves over the 2 lines. Same thing with this coolant line running through there. So without any further ado, I'd say let's get started. The two charge pipes are wrapped in gold tape, which took way longer than expected. It took me like almost 2 hours to do that. We got gold tape on the intercooler reservoir, and then we got a heat sleeve on the line. We got the two heat sleeves on the power steering lines. Come over here, we have the heat sleeve on the coolant line and the oil line, and then we got the turbo blanket on and the hole cut for the intake. I'm already covered in fiberglass, and I haven't even touched the exhaust yet. I did play around with the embossed aluminum. It's gonna be hard to make it look good and be done professionally, but I'm gonna try my best to do it. It's late, covered in fiberglass. I'm gonna do that tomorrow, so I will talk to you guys then. It's another rainy, crappy day down here in Georgia, but it's not hot, so that's nice. So here's the thing, this is metal, and metal can't stretch or contract. So on the tight radius bends, the inside has too much material and the outside has not enough material. So you got to cut the metal in some way where it can form around the bends. I fooled around of cutting like little triangles out of the metal, and that kind of worked, but I was cutting too much material out. I have an idea for what I think will work. If I just cut slits in the metal, the two layers can overlap, and then I can rivet it so it'll keep a curve. And then I can kind of do that for each curve and then put it all together, rivet it together, and zip tie it onto the exhaust. I guess I'll go ahead and get started. This was my practice piece. It's actually two separate pieces. As you can tell, I just cut slits in the metal, and then you can form it around the bend nicely. I played around with this one that I was making. I actually riveted it together. You can't really see, but it does really well. I think the plan is to kind of tuck the underside into the top, and then when I zip tie it down, when I actually attach it to the exhaust, it should all stay together. That's it. I did as much as I could. So this entire crossover pipe is wrapped. I mean, that's where most of the heat is coming from. I did my best to wrap this little merger. I put a sheet on each of the manifolds. I also made a little heat shield right here, hopefully just to kind of get the turbo to suck more of the air from down there. So next up is to go ahead, put the two intake pipes back on. As I was saying earlier, today it's a little bit cooler out than yesterday, but tomorrow it's supposed to be same temperature. So I think we're gonna wait to do the test again until it's the same ambient temperature as it was for the baseline test. But I'm gonna start it. I wanna start it and see it warm up and see what it looks like. So same thing as last time. I'm gonna cruise at 60 miles an hour for 10 minutes, then do a first to third gear rip, and then let it idle for 10 minutes. But we'll see what happens. station and we sit for 10 more minutes. I'll go ahead and start the 10-minute timer right now. All right, let's see here. So the 10-minute long cruise, it looks like the lowest intake temperature we got to was 97 degrees Fahrenheit. An improvement of 2 degrees over the baseline test. During the poll, the intake temps got down to 77 degrees Fahrenheit. That's an improvement of 6 degrees over the baseline test. And then the idle, 125 degrees. Yet again, an improvement of 6 degrees. So there's definitely been an improvement in terms of intake temps and heat soak, but the improvement isn't huge. And I'm pretty sure that's because there are some underlying issues. For one, the obvious is that there's an LS in a Volvo with a turbo and exhaust everywhere. I've talked about that plenty. But the other issue is that our intercooler system, our water to air intercooler system, isn't quite keeping up. If we were to upgrade the size of the heat exchanger, upgrade the size of the water pump, and upgrade the diameter of all the water lines, then we can get a lot more water flowing through the intercooler and a lot more water exchanging heat, doing what it's supposed to do. It's just a pretty expensive upgrade for not a whole lot of benefit since we have the meth injection. So for now, we'll send it as is. But speaking of upgrades, we do have one more upgrade coming before the drag day. I got a set of valve springs and some new exhaust gaskets because there's definitely some exhaust leaks. So we're gonna install those valve springs hopefully before Friday, the drag day, and then we're gonna take it to the track and hopefully run a 10. Definitely an 11, maybe a 10, who knows. Started out this video drinking Mountain Dew and now I'm drinking some Mellow Yellow. But real quick, I want to talk about this video's sponsor, Squarespace. Squarespace gives people a powerful and beautiful online platform from which to create your own website. Squarespace has a bunch of features. You can grow and engage your audience using Squarespace email campaigns, create powerful email content that matches your website with your existing products, use customizable galleries to display videos and images in a unique way. All websites are optimized for mobile. Content will automatically adjust so it looks good on any device. You can connect with your audience and generate revenue through gated members-only content. Manage your members, send email communications, and leverage audience insights, all on one easy-to-use platform. Now, if you're interested, go to squarespace.com for your free trial. And when you're ready to launch, go to squarespace.com/Gingium to save 10% off your first purchase of a website or domain. Huge thank you to Squarespace for sponsoring this video, and huge thank you to you guys for watching these. I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope you have a great day. Peace out, and goodbye.